What is up, guys? Name is Dre and welcome to another Arknights Endfield video. So in today's video we are finally looking at the tier list again. This was updated I think over a week already ago, but I was away and I wanted to wait for the full patch 1.0 to end anyway. So yeah, this is pridewin.gg. I always link their website on my description down below. As always, tier lists are always a controversial topic, so take everything here with a grain of salt. This is not my personal opinion here that you can see. I will partly include my personal opinion in this tier list, or at least my speculations on characters, but we are here to trust pridewin.gg. I most of the time with all gacha games, I always use them as a reference. I always do look at other content creators too. Not everyone has to have the same opinion here, so keep that in mind. Be friendly to everyone, and yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, as I said, Rossi and Tang Tang are missing in this tier list because this is at the end of patch 1.0. By the time this tier list is live, patch 1.1 is also already live, but just like for the first few days. The next time I will update this is when Pridewin updates this for Rossi. So I think in phase 2 of patch 1.1, I'm going to update the tier list. So yeah, with that being said, we are here. We have now 3 categories. They changed that. So we now have damage, enablers, and buffers. And the healing category is now removed from the tier list, and they only made it to 3 categories. So this is a very, very big change here. And yeah, we always go over the tier list with this changelog. There are a lot of changes that we have to go through. It's on the 3rd of March by the time I record the video, I think now on the 12th. But yeah, we don't want to miss out on anything. So in terms of damage dealers, top 3 right now in the game: Levitain, Last Ride, and Yvonne. I think this is now a really, really fair comparison, though, or a really, really fair. How do I want to say? Is now a really fair choice of characters that is available in those tiers, because for a very long time, Yvonne I think was here or even here, and I did start to play her. I didn't fully build it, but I started to play her, and I didn't understand why she was down below here. A lot of my viewers and a lot of comments also said that they don't see Yvonne is down here, and yeah, I was always thinking the same. I think Yvonne should belong into the 0.5 category, and all other things, I don't know if they're all really changed. Let's maybe take a look at the changelog here. So let's go over like the overall changelog here. The tier list structure has changed. We've now brought damage category as well as enabler and buffer. Damage is meant to encapsulate characters whose main purpose in a team is to deal damage, working as hypercarries or being the driving force behind a team's damage output. Okay, I think this should be clear what a damage dealer is by this. Enabler, I also think this is kind of self-explanatory, but we go over this, is for characters whose main purpose in a team is to assist others besides just buffs. This can come into forms of inflictions, speed generation, staggerable, ultimate energy, etc. So I think this was support damage before mainly, but they also include like other characters that use helping abilities to to support your carry. Then buffer. Buffer houses characters whose main purpose is a team to provide buffs, being multipliers to the actual damage being dealt to a team. Yeah, okay. So I feel like this is kind of self-explanatory just with this. I didn't really felt the need of explaining these 3 terms, but yeah, here they are. If you don't know what these terms means, we acknowledge that there is a lot of overlap between these categories. Yeah, that is what I was thinking. I think enablers and buffers overlapping a lot if they provide it like that. I think before, for me, it was a little bit better, but yeah, it's whatever. That's what they decide, and we're going to accept that. Wolfguard could be played as a main damage dealer, as could Estella. Leafang provides susceptibility and link, which contributes to him being strong pick, and much of Arclight value comes from Wildland Tracker Helica is key to infliction building in electric teams and can drive reactions in many others, and Gilberto AoE grouping is valuable, etc. Characters then have been placed in what we believe they slant more towards, but there are not particularly strong feelings on way or another. Positions may be shifted around across columns, but we welcome suggestions and feedback as a structure. So, this is, I think, important. They place the characters on what they believe the character is more likely to be used in. So, they already said here Wolfguard is a damage dealer and an enabler, probably. But I think they put him in the enabler category because it is more likely that he will be used as an enabler. If you don't have, for example, Levitain, it could be possible that you use Wolfguard as a DPS, and he definitely would not be in the 0.5 category. He would be more like into the tier 1 category or even tier 1.5, I think. I think more like tier 1, in my opinion, is what I assume here. So yeah, keep that in mind as we're going on talking about this tier list. So next is characters then have, okay, this is what I was going, and then operator placement. As categories have changed, characters have been shifted around according to the new criteria. Only those have seen placement changes or that we feel are deserving of clarification are listed below. So now let's go over all characters here that are changed, and they also did write the tier already here. I will always look down at the tier list and see about the comparisons. So, okay, tier 0, no change for Levitain. Levitain may see no change in the current tier list placement, but we are aware of her underperformance in Umbral Monument inorganic construct. While there is argument that her teams are floundering in it, she still remains a strong all-round pick, so make knee-jerk changes based on a single set of stages is too hasty, meaning she remains in her spot. Yeah, I was already clearing Umbral Monument inorganic construct with Levitain, by the way. I felt there were some complications though, but no issue and no reason to put her down a tier. She was still completely carrying me, even though I felt like the first phase was more made for her than the second phase. But yeah, I think she definitely deserves right now the spot to be the best DPS in the game. Yvonne, tier 1. Tier 1 to tier 0.5. Okay, they put her one tier up. With a full release and the arrival of Umbral Monument and Inorganic Construct, Yvonne has proven herself to be better than initially seen, getting great clear times all around. Her teams do struggle with infliction build, and the extended setups required to get full value out of her ultimate to hold her back, but she's at the very least deserving of a secure tier 0.5. As the game's cast expand and Yvonne gets teammates that can make up for current issues, she could well be moved up further. I definitely can see that with patch 1.1, Yvonne possibly can move up, because I'm not sure, but there is the possibility, or it is very likely, at least what we've seen on the trailers, that Tang Tang wants to be in a team with Yvonne, and she probably will enhance the power of this character, and there is the possibility that Yvonne can move from tier 0.5 to tier 0. We do not know yet. It is a possibility that we have to keep in mind, but for right now, I definitely do think that at least in patch 1.1, she won't move down. So at the end of patch 1.1, she will be tier 0.5 or tier 0, is my assumption here. Avivenna, no change. Avivenna is another character that sees no change, but is worth noting as by most metrics, she could be at least at tier 0.5 on Umbral Monument inorganic construct. She can clear as fast or even faster than Yvonne on stages 2 and 3, being held back only by long setups in stage 1. The problem is that the tier list currently is not meant to assume P5 characters, and the difference between Avivenna at P0 and P5 is significant enough that it holds her back from jumping up a tier, so she remains in tier 1. Okay, so, this is... Did they say this at the bottom here already? Okay, I was actually assuming that they were looking at 5-star operators on P5, but here in this changelog, they say that they only look at P0. And this is a big change though, because I would always look at 5-star operators on P5, because at the end of the day, uh, sooner than later, you will have them P5 for sure. If you start the game, play it consistently, you will have your characters at P5. You won't have your 6 operators on P5, logically, but definitely your 5 operators should be P5. So I would see this as P5, and that's why I would see Avenena here in tier 0.5 for the current Umbral Monument and Iconic Construct. But because this character is a little bit more unstable and only has one real comp, I would assume that she will stay at tier 1, or yeah, more likely on tier 1 at the end of patch 1.1, starting into patch 1.2 is my assumption. But right now, I think the placement on tier 1 is definitely fine, but I don't like the argument that they see it on P0 and that's why she is on tier 1. Chen Hyun-yu, she is support damage. They changed her from tier 1 support damage, now including the new category Enablers, and put her in the tier 0.5 category. Chen is core to any physical team and fits the enabler requirement to a T, doing good damage while being the main source of vulnerability stacks with how well sustainless physical teams have been performing across all kinds of content. She deserves at the very least a tier 0.5 placement. She could even be argued to be a tier 0, but the limited scope of what she offers holds her back somewhat, so we've only bumped her up 1 tier for now. Yeah, I think there's nothing really to argue about. This character right now seems a staple for physical teams. She is a very, very good enabler for these kind of teams. And yeah, they could argue that she's tier 0, but I'm totally fine with giving her the tier 0.5 spot right now. Wolfgod, I think it should be similar to Chen. So yeah, he was tier 1 support damage. Now with the enabler category to tier 0.5, Wolfgod has been removed entirely from the damage category, as he is primarily run for heat infliction and levitate teams. There aren't many opportunities for him to make use of Cannibal's effects. It's even run as OBG Velocitus, sees frequent use, and his personal damage is lackluster when built for supportive role. But like Chen, he is the main source of inflictions to heat teams. This alone makes him indispensable, and given Levitane's historical performance, gives him deserving of a tier 0.5 slot. Okay, so basically, the very important thing here is that... Oh, I think I have to change this a little bit. Oh, I just noticed now that you cannot see the full text. Dang it. Now should be visible. Okay, okay, sorry for that one. Now you should see the full text. Basically, he's the only one who has heat infliction right now, and as soon as there is another character that does this better with more benefits, he will be replaced probably. So he will be more likely replaced than anyone for these kinds of teams. But for now, he deserves a spot. He's the only one who is doing that. Alash, tier 2 to tier 1. So support damage tier 2 to tier 1 enabler. Alash users were rather limited at release, but with the arrival of both Gilberto and Yvonne, there are 4 more teams that can reliably trigger his combo skill. He supplies a decent amount of SP to a team, and the unconditional cryo infliction on his ultimate can be key to speeding up rotations, while he can provide good buffs via Termite Cutter and his rare fin, as well as make us of frontiers in some setups. He is relying on potentials that we do not factor in just yet, so he moves up in a single tier and sits within the enabler category. So in terms of Alash, I watch a lot of content to Yvonne, and a lot of Yvonne Gilberto teams now start to use Alash instead of, I think initially Zaihi was used in that spot and Last Ride. And now I see a lot of teams that use Gilberta, Zaihi, Alash, and Yvonne instead of the Last Ride there in the slot. So yeah, that definitely makes him a very valuable 5-star operator right now. Then this one is very interesting. Next, Gilberta, from the 0.5 amplifier to the tier 0 buffer, Between her unmatched grouping ability, ridiculously high susceptibility values, and unconditional nature infliction on her ultimate, Gilberta has been a high performer, not only in Umbral Monument, but even in strictly single target content such as Re-Crisis. With Yvonne's arrival, Gilberta has managed to expand the range of teams that she is best for, all the while remaining a highly competitive pick for any odds-based composition, which we believe makes her deserving of a tier 0 spot. So the problem back in patch 1.0, when Yvonne wasn't released, her teams were very limited. I think she was only used in Aviwana's team, but right now she also has Yvonne's team, so she has now multiple teams that she is very, very good in. It also turns out that she is not only good in AoE scenarios, which she is supposed to use for, but she's also good in single target scenarios, and that will make the change to give her the tier 0 category. Next, we go with Perlica. So, tier 1 support damage into tier 0.5 buffer. Although Perlica's personal damage can be decent, with odds intensity builds tanking route, she has become a priority pick for most odds teams. Owing to her easily accessible electrification, she not only provides ridiculous buff value through it, but can also make use of competitive Rs units for even greater gains, like Detonation Unit or Stance of Memorials, as well as provide an effective trigger for multiple operators' combo skill. Had we been evaluating characters with potentials, she could very well have made it to the tier 0 spot. But without her P4 multipliers increased P1's durations extension, she is a lot more limited in use, sitting at tier 0.5 for time being. I think here, this is now... Oh, sorry. Let's click here. This is now, in my opinion, the same argument as for as for Chen. No, as for Chen. As for Aviwana, sorry. They argumented that because they only look at P0 and P5, they would consider at the tier 0 category. Perlica, they do the same because P4 and P1 are very important. We have a big multiplier increase here and a duration extension, which they would consider at the tier 0 category for a support. But in my opinion, we cannot put every character in the tier 0 category, even though this is the argument again. The argument again is P0 instead of P5, like for Aviwana here, like with this one. But yeah, I think it is fair to give it the tier 0.5 category. I mean, yeah, again, she is a staple unit for for most odds teams, for the electrification team. You can even use her in a lot of other teams, which is an argument to bring her into the tier 0 category because she can be used in a lot of teams and she has a place there. But again, using the P0, P5 argument, I don't know. But probably Perlica, in my opinion, is more likely to be in the tier 0 category than Aviwana because she has way more usage or way more possibilities of usage than Aviwana. That's why, yeah, I think this is very fair. Antel. So this is the first downgrade here. I think pretty much every character here moved up by at least half a tier or a full tier. Antel is the first one that moves down a tier. So she was tier 0.5 amplifier. He moves to tier 1 buffer. Antel remains an incredibly strong operator, but he has become increasingly niche. Levitating Heat teams frequently see Akakuri replace him, as do very electric teams with Gilberta. His strict single target focus means that he has struggled to do well in many Umbral Monument stages that see multiple enemies. So despite the relative strength of his buff value, he hasn't been as dominant a pick and drops down to a tier 1 placement. Okay, yeah, this is a thing that I noticed in the full patch 1, though. I was also using Antel initially, but my main reason is that I wanted to have more waifus in my team. That's why I replaced him with Akakuri. So I didn't replace Antel with Akakuri because Akakuri is the better choice. But after I used them, I noticed that Akakuri was way smoother into the Levitating Heat team. And yeah, at the end there, I had no use. I didn't use an electric team with Gilberta though, but you only can do this if you have Gilberta. Otherwise, Antel is still your plan B for his team, I think. But if you pull for Gilberta using an electric team, yeah, probably Antel has no real use right now in your team, even though he is a very, very good replacement in the spot. Next, the character that nobody can pronounce his name, Prokreknik, so Pog. tier 0.5 support damage into a tier 0 buffer. Puck has been a key player to physical teams since release, being the only operator that is able to apply breach. He was already a strong option with grouping on his ultimate, steady SP recovery, and the ability to run strong supportive weapons, but as sustainless physical teams started being built, the strength of ult intensity to support his buff value became ever more apparent. Given how well physical has been performing as of late, we find him to be deserving of a tier 0 placement, being the backbone of teams he runs. I think this one is the standard character that was argued the most to be at tier 0. I think a lot of people told me that they think Pog should be a tier 0 character, and I think I even mentioned it in my last tier list from Pride that I could see Pog moving up into the tier 0 category during the next patch. So yeah, we did go over all of this. These were all the changes. This is now the final tier list. If we take a look here, so we have tier 0 Levitain, no tier 0 enabler. We have Gilberta. We have Adelia, Gilberta, and Pog in the enabler tier 0 category. Tier 0.5, we have Lazarite, Yvonne for the damage dealers. We have Chen Kuan Yu, Li Feng, and Wolfguard for the enablers. We have Akakiri, Perlika, and Jaihi for the buffer category here in tier 0.5. Tier 1, we have Avivana, the Pan, and Administrator for the damage category. We have Alash, Arknight, Amber, and Snowshine for the tier 1 category. So I notice right now there are no changes for Amber here, and she is only moved into the enabler category. Then we have tier 1 Antel into the buffer category. And for the last two categories, tier 1.5 and tier 2, there are no additions for damage dealers, and for the buffers, only enablers. Enabler tier 1.5 Estella and Fluorite, and tier 2 Catcher. So probably these are the characters that are not really used. There were some team comps that can use these as replacements. For example, you can use Fluorite in a Lazarite team if you want to. And I think Estella is also a possibility in the Yvonne category. But I see all 5 operators as free-to-play options. And yeah, you should be able to choose any of the standard characters, including Lazarite. So I would rather, if I have the choice, build a team with Yvonne. If I don't have Gilberta, only Yvonne, for example, I would play Yvonne, Lazarite, Jaihi, and then probably Alash instead of Fluorite or Estella. So this is my choice here, just for an example. Okay, so we have an already 22-minute video long. I think this is a good length. We did go over all the changeover. We did revisit the tier list here as soon as they updated for Rossi, not for Tang. I think for Rossi is the time when I come back and take a look at the Pride.gg tier list. If you want to take a look for yourself again, the link is down in the description. I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. Subscribe for more Arknights and content, and I see you guys next time. Bye.